Hey everyone, it's Michael Kikle. I hope you're doing well today. And as many of you probably know, the sad news is that David Lynch passed away. I think it was either yesterday or a few days ago or something. His family announced it on his official Facebook page. And it's really sad news, man. I have a lot in this little tribute video I want to do for the guy because in a lot of weird ways, he means a lot to me. And I think I want to talk a little bit about that. I went to break yesterday. And when I was on break at work, I looked at Reddit, and I saw like a million posts about David Lynch. And as soon as I saw the photo everybody was sharing, apparently from the post from his family on Facebook, I knew something was up. And my heart kind of sank a little bit. Even if I'm not the biggest, most hardcore David Lynch guy, I have a lot to say about how much he means to me, like I said. It was a picture of him in a very Eraserhead way. A black and white photo, I'm assuming from the last 5 years or maybe even more recently. Him playing guitar and there's like smoke behind him and around him and stuff. As soon as I saw that photo, I was like, please God, no. David Lynch passed away at 78 years old. First and foremost, to the family out there who may be watching this video, I'm so late to making even a video to discuss this. I'm sorry for your loss. I really am. For the people who knew David, I'm sure he was a special guy. He always seemed like it to me. God bless you. I hope you're doing well. David Lynch. Where do I even start with the guy? I discovered him when I started hearing about Twin Peaks, probably 10 years ago, I want to say. And I tried out Twin Peaks, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. In recent years, I've come more around to it. I kind of click with it more now as an adult than I did when I was a teenager, which was about 10 years ago. And I still don't love Twin Peaks, but it's fine. The thing that got me into David Lynch, and I mean hardcore into David Lynch, things that I wrote, poetry and whatnot I worked on in the past when I was still trying to write for a living, were based a lot around David Lynch and Nicholas Winding Refn, their work. And the thing that got me obsessed with David Lynch was this little film right here that my mom got me because I kept hearing about how good it was, even if it was a surrealist art house movie, Eraserhead. Now this is apparently some kind of bootleg of some sort. It has like Japanese or something back here. And I have watched this copy of this movie so much that you have no idea. I got this probably about that 10 years ago. I'm pretty sure Twin Peaks was the first thing I ever really tried to delve into from him. And Eraserhead, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolute masterpiece. I'm convinced it is his best movie, absolute masterpiece, 100%, to the point where I even went ahead later on and bought a Criterion copy, or my mom did, or somebody got this for me. I'm pretty sure my mom bought this for me as a present one year, many years after this, of Criterion. Now, I don't even like Criterion. I don't buy them, no offense to them, I just don't like boutique labels that much. I have maybe 3 Criterion Blu-rays or anything in my collection, but this is one of the ones I was so excited to get because I love Eraserhead. Now, being a massive horror fan, Eraserhead is insanely creepy to me. I mean, one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. We can talk about surrealism in film. We can talk about art house cinema all we want. That man put his heart and soul into making this movie. I mean, he really did. It was years, I believe, if I remember correctly, of trying to shoot this on the weekends. And the Criterion even comes with some of his short films. You can see some of the things David did, I think, before Eraserhead. And man, the guy was incredible. He really was. He was quite a character in general. But Eraserhead, for people who don't know me that well, I haven't reviewed it for the channel yet, Eraserhead is probably, to me, the scariest movie ever made. And I'm not even a hardcore art house fan anymore. I don't really even like surreal horror anymore because they're so cheap and they're so lazy, I would say, more than anything. They typically use the surrealism to cover up for bad character writing or just bad script writing as directors. And many directors, I think, use it as a curtain to defend against bad writing that they do if they're doing writing and directing. That's how my personal opinion goes with it. But David didn't do that, in my personal opinion. I might not be a huge fan of all of his stuff, but it's more like saying I prefer the color black or the color red over like the color yellow. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a preference thing. I don't really love his stuff, but I can acknowledge that it's very well made for what it is. Eraserhead is a masterpiece. The only other film that ever scared me as much as Eraserhead, being a lifelong horror fan, and I mean like in my adulthood when I saw Eraserhead. A few years back I saw a film that's kind of found footage, kind of not, called Antrim, the Deadliest Film Ever Made. That film doesn't come close to how Eraserhead haunts my nightmares, but both scare me tremendously. They are the two, to me, scariest movies ever made. And David probably didn't even mean this as a horror movie, but I think he was more honest about that here than he was with like Blue Velvet or Twin Peaks or any of his other stuff that could be semi-horror. But David, again, I'm not really a fan of his movies and stuff. Twin Peaks I'm okay with. I haven't finished watching it yet. I'm in the middle of season 2. Not actively even watching that right now, but still. Sorry I keep licking my lip, by the way. It's chapped to hell because of the cold and the snow we've had recently. It really messed my mouth up. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. But just as a distraction to bother you and me. I just wanted to let you know that. I recently finished Wild at Heart with Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern. Fucking hated it. Probably the worst thing I've ever seen from him. I could almost watch that over Dune. I don't know, but Dune was horrifically bad too. Those two are probably the worst I've ever seen from David Lynch. I saw Elephant Man right after I watched Wild at Heart. And by the way, Wild at Heart and Elephant Man I saw about 2 weeks ago. For the first time ever. Maybe closer to 3, but about 2 weeks ago. Which feels like that red letter media curse. You think about a director you like Lynch, most of the time I like. You watch a couple of things of his and then he's gone. You know, the same thing happened to me with Ray Liotta. You know, it's kind of creepy, man. But I love, I think The Elephant Man is a really, really great movie for the most part. A little slow, but really great. Wild at Heart, hell no. But The Elephant Man I have the criterion of as well. Probably not going to keep on to that or Wild at Heart in my collection, but Elephant Man was genuinely, like, amazingly sweet and beautiful and sad and depressing. There was a lot of things I wish had been done more in there, but I think it is an actual biopic, isn't it? I think it is. But anyway. Blue Velvet, not a fan at all. I love Kyle MacLachlan. He's usually, in David Lynch stuff, he's usually the best part of the movie for me. Not a fan of that one. And I think that's everything I've seen from him. I have a couple of things I've never seen, like Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, which I'm going to watch when I finish season 2 at some point. I'm trying to think of what else there was. I can't remember what else I had laying around that was a David Lynch thing. But it's sad, though, because what I really want to focus on is more Lynch himself and his talent. The man was a visionary when it came to eyeing how to make a shot out of something, or how to do a practical effect. Nobody to this day knows about the cow-looking child from Eraserhead. Nobody knows how he did it. I don't think he ever gave the answer about what happened there. But Lynch himself, despite being kind of a new age weird guy with this crazy awesome hair, I love his hair, man. He did music, he did so many things. He was an absolute artist to the T. I texted my 2 friends, Parker and Anthony, yesterday to tell them, hey, did you see where Lynch died? And what was wild, too, this should mean a lot to the family and friends out there of Lynch. My wife doesn't watch movies. She doesn't know who the fuck Lynch is. Even if I was watching Wild at Heart and The Elephant Man a couple of weeks ago, she doesn't know who the David Lynch man himself is. Even she popped up this morning and was like, hey, did you hear that David Lynch died? And I was like, how did you know that? Even her people are talking about that in their circles. People at work were talking about it to her. Which is wild, because how many hipsters could be working with you that people are actually knowing who David Lynch is? It's kind of wild, man. When even my wife knows who David Lynch is at this point, and has never seen a single movie of his. I think she saw a little bit of Twin Peaks when I was in the room watching it with her. Or when I was watching it, she was watching it a little bit with me. But she doesn't know who he is, you know? At least now she does, which is wild. But Lynch, I think what makes it so crazy is that's happening, but also the fact that, like, now people are coming around to, like, his YouTube channel, where, like, every day he would do this weird weather update. It's such a bizarre thing, man. But my friends and I were talking about this whole thing yesterday with Lynch, and I brought up the fact that, outside of Scorsese and Nolan, for me personally, those are the last two that are left of truly visionary directors, because Nicholas Winding Refn doesn't really make much of anything anymore. He did a little TV recently. I haven't seen those. I've seen like the first episode of one of them involving Miles Teller. It's like a cop show, and it was good. I really liked the first episode of that. But I don't know about the show itself. It doesn't have the style that his movies have. It does and it doesn't. Does that make sense? Anyway, this isn't about Refn. But outside of, really, when it comes to people who are well-respected, and Refn really isn't, outside of, like, us people who like some art house horror, Nicholas Winding Refn is kind of like the Stanley Kubrick of art house. They're more mainstream than any other art house surrealist nut out there. Most of those guys are hipsters. Refn has this hipster feel, but I still like the majority of his work, But Lynch surprises me because he was one of the last ones to be around, aside from Nolan and Scorsese and arguably Refn. He was one of the last ones, man. And I'm surprised he made it to 78 with how this man smoked like a chimney. It's kind of surprising, man. But I gotta tell you, I have seen so many videos, behind the scenes stuff, but a lot of YouTube videos of not even just interviews, but like Q&As and him specifying info about writing especially. If you're into writing at all, it doesn't matter whether you're doing art house or if you like screenplays or novels or music. Lynch had some of the best advice ever. And I don't have it like off the top of my head, but I remember when I was really trying to get back into writing a few years back, particularly with poetry and stuff, Lynch really knew how to motivate somebody. And I love that about him. Stephen King is like that too, but Lynch especially had some really great ideas on how to motivate people to get their mind focused back that. And not just like with passion, but spirituality in general. And again, I'm not a New Ager, I'm a Christian, but the thing is, Lynch, despite kind of like his hippie nature in a lot of ways, was a genius when it came to a lot of stuff on how he thought about movies, how he thought about things. There were movies that everybody hates that he would defend, you know what I mean? Like, the dude was very much an opinionated guy. We have these jokes all over the internet about him getting mad in an interview one time or a Q&A or something and tearing into people who passively watch movies. And I feel the same way as a film collector and a film lover. Movies are dying heavily because we've gone from trying to make active, motivated, inspired movies to getting more and more to the point where we're making passive films for a passive audience because of how bad the relationship is between Hollywood and even indie filmmakers and the audience, the general audience, people who are going to seek out these movies. Everything has become so bitter and even so corporatized, too, that it's become like a war. It's very strange. And I don't mean to go too far into this ballpark, but Lynch got that. And getting pissed off at audience members for watching their phones for movies, or watching movies on their phone, I guess is how I'll phrase that. He used to get really mad about that, and I do too. I mean, I might watch something, like at lunchtime at work on my phone. Certain things I can't see anywhere, like Dogma from Kevin Smith I wanted to see. Tried to watch it on YouTube because it's not like it's a massively budgeted film or something like a Lynch film that I think you should watch on a big TV to really get the experience, or in a theater for that matter. It's not like that. But he really cared about that, even if it wasn't his movie. He wasn't offended because people were watching his movies on their cell phones. He was offended that anybody would do that in general, and I have to agree with him because you look at what's happened to physical media getting a release and how streaming has risen so high, now it's crashing and burning, and people are still sticking with that as the cheaper option, but it's killed physical media. You barely have any stores around anymore to buy stuff. The online stores are so filled with third-party scammers that you get ripped off now if you buy shit like that. Lynch had a great point, and he was saying it years before any of us were. Again, the man was a visionary and a genius in a lot of ways. And he had this mysterious vibe to him. When you see him in QAs and stuff, he's a very talkative dude. And I love that about him. I love his advice. I love his discussions on things like writing and maybe some of his stories from behind the scenes of people like Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern. And all of that stuff really made him so much more of a character. He just seemed like he would be a fun dude to know. As a family member or as like just a friend. their neighbor, you know? He just seemed like a kooky, fun dude. I love him a lot. And it feels like this is a bad start to 2025 already. You know what I mean? But I don't really have anything else to say about the David Lynch stuff. I just, I love him. Despite not even being a fan of his movies and stuff, I just liked him, you know? Kevin Smith always joked about how his dad left this planet when he died, never liking a Kevin Smith movie. I think that's hilarious, you know? You can love these artists, or these writers or directors, in Lynch's case, he does writing as well. You can love these people and not give a shit about their artwork. You can take their advice even if you don't like what they say about things. And Lynch was probably one of those cases, 1 in a million, that surprises me that he has succeeded as well as he did. Because of how many of his films kind of flopped, like Dune. And like, in my opinion, I don't see how Wild at Heart couldn't have flopped. I haven't looked into that at all. Maybe it didn't. But to me, it seems like it probably did. Anyway, despite not being a massive David Lynch fan, I love him, and I love Eraserhead. I think it's a masterpiece. Elephant Man is really good too, like I said, if you haven't seen that. Twin Peaks seems to be the big thing people call a masterpiece of his. What's really sad is there were rumors spiraling around for a long time now. Since 2018, 2017, 2019, when The Return, the newest season of Twin Peaks, came out. There was a lot of discussion that we were going to get more Twin Peaks because of him, and what's the other guy? Is it Mark Frost? Mac Frost? Something like that was the co-creator who did the books and stuff for Twin Peaks. There was a lot of rumor we were going to get more Twin Peaks, and I was kind of even though I'm not the most diehard fan of it, I was kind of interested in that. But I guess not anymore. Because I don't think you could do it without him. I really don't. I mean, he brought the spotlight to people like Chromatics. And Chromatics I've been listening to on YouTube for, 10 years? A long time. Way before The Return came out. People found them mainly because of The Return and David Lynch. But Chromatics was great before that, you know what I mean? Lynch is a master. We need a documentary about him. You know what I mean? We need a real, actual documentary or a behind-the-scenes type of movie. Kind of like that Hitchcock movie with Anthony Hopkins. We need something like that with David Lynch, is what my personal opinion is. But my biggest recommendation for you, if you love horror and you like surreal art house stuff, you need to see Eraserhead. It'll rock your world, man. Hour and a half will tell a movie you've never seen before. About a lot of things, like parenthood and marriage. It's a classic. An absolute horrifically scary classic. I feel like even though I saw this as a teenager, I don't think I should have seen this when I did. I don't. Because it scared the shit out of me. And even as an adult, it would have scared the hell out of me because of how chilling that movie is. But I wish I could sit here and blow a load all over the David Lynch stuff that I love and whatever, and being a hardcore fan of his movies and shows and stuff. I wish I could sit here and do that. I can't. But this is more of an honest tribute of, this was a guy I really admired. That any piece of advice he had online, except for meditation shit, I would listen to it because of how fun he was to listen to. He was again, kind of like an uncle or a grandpa that you knew. That just went on these tangents about shit that were just phenomenal and classic, like the phone rant. But anyway, I don't really have anything else to say, like I said, and with attempt to not be too repetitive with this video, I just wanted to say, God bless David Lynch. If you haven't seen a lot of his work, maybe this is the time to check him out, man. When even people like my wife are hearing about the guy, I mean, that's pretty awesome. The family, again, should feel really big pride about that, because it's everywhere. It's all over Reddit, YouTube. I don't use other social media, so I'm assuming it's on those as well if my wife heard about it. But she doesn't use Reddit or YouTube like I do. But that's pretty awesome, and I hope his name gets out there more. Maybe we'll have some special behind-the-scenes stuff that'll come out, or again, maybe books or writings, collections of things Lynch had as ideas or something in the future. As a release as a book, for fans. I would buy something like that just because I love his advice. I feel like David Lynch would have been a better non-fiction guy, to be honest with you, writing about Hollywood from the internal side of things, as a director, as a writer, from the studio standpoints. All the behind-the-scenes stuff about Dune and what went wrong with that, and how much David Lynch hated that. David Lynch, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, was going to be the original director for Return of the Jedi. He was one of the people Lucas talked to before he settled on the final director. That's pretty wild. Can you imagine having a fucking Star Wars sequel, the end of that trilogy, that had Lynch involved? That could have been like Last Jedi, you know what I mean? Like, that could have been some crazy shit, even though I'm sure Lucas would have been in charge of the story. That could have been wild. It really could have been. People forget that about Lynch, that he was even considered for that. But anyway, David Lynch, really a big visionary. You could argue one of the other last visionaries, by the way, is Tarantino. I'm not a hardcore Tarantino fan either. But Lynch is one of the last ones, man. And he's gone. You know, we're at a time where most of Hollywood is just streamlined. One of the few directors I like anymore that are newer people are the Russo brothers. You don't really have much left of people that are making films still that were visionaries even up into the 90s and the 2000s. You didn't really have many back then. But it's sad, man. So anyway, God bless you again, David Lynch. God bless his family and friends. Some people had said online it's very bizarre that Lynch passes while, you know, California, which I believe was his home, the way people talked in that area, he passed away while these wildfires are burning down Hollywood. You know what I mean? I'm not smirking over that or anything. It's just, it's kind of a wild time that he would have passed away right now in this whole era of what's going on between audiences in Hollywood and the fires and all of that happening simultaneously. It's pretty crazy, man. Again, it feels like a bad omen in some ways. But anyway, let me know what you think about David Lynch down below. What do you think about of all of his projects, his shows, his movies? Would you like a book or something that has like a bunch of stories of his that maybe he put together? Maybe the friends and family put like a collage of memories of things that happened with him back in the day up there. I would love that if they would do something like that. I would totally buy it. $30 hardcover, I'd buy that shit in a heartbeat. But yeah, let me know what you think about him. Did he ever give you advice as a writer or anything from these Q&A videos and stuff that really stuck with you? I'd love to hear all that down below too. But what a bummer of a day, man. I mean, that was yesterday when I heard about this, but still, it's kind of a shame, you know? But anyway, God bless you guys. Catch you later, and goodbye.